Oh, hello, everybody. Welcome to Wednesday night. We're talking with James. We got two special guests on here tonight. Kind of a continuation from last week. Before we start that, let's say God bless America and God bless each and every one of you and your families. Don't forget these guys that's behind me. Make sure we had Memorial Day, and really, Lyle and James, Memorial Day ought to be every day.
I agree.
Yep.
They've done so much for us, and the honor should be to support them every day. But anyway, we hold this truth to be self-evident that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And we're going to talk a little catfish, and we're going to talk a little junk, and maybe even talk a little more junk. Tonight, let's go ahead and give a few shout-outs while we right quick. We got Chad, Chrissy Brown, Ernie Brown. Want to outdoors. There's Mr. Chad's in the house. Who else we got in here? The Bullock Experience. There's my buddy Freddie's in the house with us. Palmetto's in the house. Who else? Ernie Brown. We don't have too many. I can't believe we got five. Five, Lyle.
Wow.
Hey, James, we must have stepped on too many toes last week.
Nah.
They're out fishing somewhere is what it is. I'll watch later on.
I had more than my very first
out there.
I know for a fact that Mark will be tuning in here in a minute because he was going to launch his boat at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, he sent me a message, said he would. But
that's if he can actually get the thing in the water. You know how he gets.
Kevin is right. You build it and they will come. That's exactly right.
Yeah. Oh, I ain't worried about it. If I got one person, I'm going to keep right on talking. I like to hear myself talk, I guess. But anyway, we do have a lot of people, Lyle and James, that actually watch the shows that are never in chat. They're here to learn. They're here to pay attention and take notes. 12-gauge catfishing. That's a new one. There's Dale. There's Mud Tramp. Becca, appreciate you coming in. Appreciate you, 12-gauge. Remember, guys and gals, if you see a new channel, share the bait, share the love. Check them out and give them a subscribe. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up, guys and gals. Let's get this on the roll. There's Lord of the Explorers in the house with fins and fines.
Hello, Bob.
That's his name is Bob, ain't it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. See, I just know their YouTube names. It's hard for me to learn the real names.
Yep, Bob, Becca.
Unless they order floats, that's the only time I get to see the real names if they order floats from me. But we're going to talk a little bit and try to have a little bit more talk of what we had last week. Last week, we talked a lot about invasive species and things that we need to look for on our boats, our fishing equipment and stuff that we might be transferring back and forth from waters. If you didn't see last week's show, please go back and check it out. It was a great show. A lot of great information was brought out. What's up, Outdoors with Dave? So if you did miss it, go back and check it out. James brought a lot of great information. Lyle did, and I did. We all believe in what we had to say. They're so go. And we're not going to mislead you with BS and junk that's maybe either going to hurt you, your waters, or your fish. But I got a couple things that really irk me that I want to bring up and get y'all's opinion on. The first one is any fish over 10 pounds being hung by their bottom lip and weighed. That drives me freaking nuts. I have caught fish, and you can tell that their bottom jaw was broke right here, mainly a flathead, because their bottom jaw just can't take it as much as like a blue. A blue will bite the dog crap out of you, but anything over 10, 15 pounds that bothers me of them. The fish grips are bad, but those, what do they call them cotton picking things that they weigh them with? The Dieter uses them all the time.
Bogle grip.
That's a little bitty thin piece of metal hanging right on that bone. Stuff like that bothers me. But mainly, I wonder, does it dislocate their jaws?
I have a pair of those Boga grips. I've never had any issues with them breaking jaws or anything. And Cindy has, I don't know how many different pair of those fish grips, the plastic ones, several different ones, and she uses them all the time. And we've never had any issues with them, except we have had fish slip through them plastic ones.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Now, I've not had that with the Bogle grips, but I will agree that the safest way to weigh fish of any size is either in a net and take the handle out or in a weigh sling. I can see where you are coming from with that, and it's very possible that we've just been lucky and not had any issues to speak of. And
I don't have no problem handling them because, you know, we all know those 15 to 25 pound blues will tear the freaking hide off your hands.
They will.
They will bite the dog out of you. And sometimes if you got them in too fast and that fish is still green, he's going to fight the crap out. He's going to tear your boat up. He's going to tear you up. The fish grips and the Boga grips do make it possible to handle that fish a lot easier. That's better for the fish and for you.
Yes. Yes.
But suspending him by his bottom jaw, I don't know. I just think, man, I'd hate for somebody to grab me my bottom jaw and pick my ass up.
That's true, but they are built different than us. Now, another thing about that, I always complain about people dropping fish at tournament weigh-ins. In my opinion, and I know it would never go over, but if you drop a fish more than once at a weigh-in, you should be disqualified. And I'm talking about if you drop one this tournament and next tournament, you should be gone, not be allowed fish tournaments again. With that being said, I dropped one fish that I can remember in my entire life, and it was about a 15-pound blue, and it spun on my hand. I had to turn loose of it. Yeah. I mean, I had to. And that was after the fish was weighed in a tournament. And I felt so bad about me saying all the stuff, all the years about people dropping fish. And here I was, dropped one that was a little bitty compared to some of them. You know what I mean? But I felt better about that. But there are some people that'll drop fish nearly every weigh-in that they weigh fish. Something needs to be done about that. And in my opinion, now this is just me talking out loud with you guys and whoever's listening, I believe that the answer is weigh slings. Yep. I really do.
Yep. I like that idea. And you know, I've seen them come in and them fish been on O2, and it's just like you didn't drag them but 5 foot to get them in the cotton picking boat. Them son of a guns are tough to handle.
That's right.
They are just tough to handle. And I know people want pictures with them. Get you a good pair of freaking gloves where you can lock into that fish's mouth and ain't worried about him chomping down on you, where you can handle him and get him under control. I'm like, Lyle, this fish has suspended his whole life in the water. And all of a sudden he's hitting dirt. He's hitting the ground. He's hitting the bottom.
Used to that.
Does it do internal organ damage, James?
It has to. It has to. And one you said about gloves, if you're worried about getting your hands skinned up, and a lot of people are, and me too, to a certain extent, get your pair of welding gloves. They are not going to get through them welding gloves, I promise you.
Well, they make him daggum mechanics gloves that's got that hard plastic on the back right at the knuckles and stuff and keep them beating your hands all to pieces. And they got a good grip.
I mean, hold on. But I mean, if you want to be a true man about it, and not, do like Lyle and, but let's be honest. Those fish are just as resilient. I mean, look how many of you all idiots have fallen out of boats, Lyle. And you bounce back.
Right.
And for those people that say, oh, well, they're not meant to be dropped. Well, nothing's been meant to be dropped, but it happens.
Right.
It does happen. I just think that in tournament angling,
dig stars.
I think that in tournaments they could prevent a lot of it. You're never going to stop it 100%. I'm on board with that, But if you can stop it to where you only see it once or twice a year with all the live feeds at the tournament weigh-ins, if you can only see that once or twice a year, that'd just be great.
Yeah, well, I mean, we got a camera on us, and we do need to set examples.
I agree.
With that being said, you're right, James. That fish is very resilient. He can take a lot more than what we're giving him credit for. And I'm not trying to be a daggone tree hook, because if that's the case, then I'd say, well, we just need to quit fishing altogether. Put a hook in that fish's mouth. You know, I'm not. That ain't what I'm saying. That ain't what I'm saying.
But I will tell you this though. All right, the fastest way to get people to do things that you don't want them to do is to preach to them nonstop that you don't want them to do it.
Right.
And there's a prime example. Is the pay lakes. All right.
Yep.
There are some that still watch our shows that when they're on our shows, they'll sit there and say how bad pay lakes are and all this other crap. Yep. But if you see them on another show, I've won this tournament and that tournament and this tournament and that tournament, and they're all at freaking pay lakes. If that's all you fish is trophy pay lakes. I'm not talking about your mom and pop, farm raised catfish.
Yeah.
All right. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about these guys that are going out there and basically stealing these fish out of our rivers. If that's the only way that you can catch a fish, then I feel bad for you. I really and truly do. But at the same time, I hope like hell you never put a hook into another fish.
I agree.
Point blank and simple. There is a list of them that is growing longer and longer the more that these live shows go on.
Yep.
And and James, I promised you I wouldn't be calling people out by name, so I'm not going to do it. But they know who they are.
Yeah,
they do.
It's the same people that can't come up with their own damn ideas on their own. So they got to go and steal everybody else. Well, that's the same thing that you're doing when you're fishing these pay lakes.
That's basically
you're stealing somebody else's fish, you idiots.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I'm in a really bad mood tonight.
I'd be mad too.
Well, listen, there was a certain individual that got me in trouble this morning. All right. And I'm not going to name his name or anything like that.
It wasn't me, I promise.
It wasn't James. But this guy, let's put it this way. If a hairless dog or a hairless, say, lassie a hair lip lassie was trying to get your attention because Timmy fell down the well again, that was the same name that would be being said by this dog. All right. Just over and over and over. But anyway, he pissed Katie off this morning and forced me to go fishing. So I'm kind of in the mood.
Damn it, Mark. You got to quit doing that.
Oh,
but I will say, James, on your theory of people and pay lakes, there is a time and a place for pay lakes. I've said this all along. I had a paralyzed nephew who was paralyzed from the chest down. He couldn't get to a lake, and he was such a huge kid, 400 or 500 pounds. You couldn't take him anywhere and do anything. And he'd ride his wheelchair down the hill to a pay lake where they let him fish for free. Now, they didn't have the giants in there that a lot of these others do because we're in southwest Missouri. Let's face it. There's nothing close around here. But they had some big fish in there, and Nathan would go down there and fall asleep in his wheelchair, and he'd wake up with a fish on, and he only had like a half a pound of grip on one hand and about a pound on the other hand, and he'd sit there and fish for day after day after day. He had an electric wheelchair, and he'd ride down that hill, ride back up the hill. Sometimes he'd run out of electricity, and Tom would have to go down and get him. But that made life for him. I'm okay with that.
I'm not talking about mom and pop fish farms. All right.
Yeah.
The ones that you basically can go and buy these fish to stock your own damn ponds with.
Absolutely.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about these guys that are taking these 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 pound fish out of our rivers and basically throwing them in a ditch, and you're paying $50 to go fish it. You're not winning a tournament.
Starving fish.
You just got lucky enough that that fish happened to swim by your hook.
Yeah.
And you either snagged the damn thing or it was about to die and was looking for desperation.
What I've seen in the last few days of some people that come into these shows and stuff and would lead you to believe that they're some kind of super fisherman and
They're
then get
not.
on a show talking about them being at these kind of pay lakes? I mean, I lost a lot of respect for several people really quick in the last couple of days.
Yeah,
Me and
it's
you both.
around here. I don't know about in y'all's area. Around here, we have quite a bit of the carp lakes, the pay lake carp lakes. Carp is a total different fish than a
It
catfish.
is. It is.
Big jumbo cats, they cannot put enough bait fish in the waters that they build them. 6 months later, they got giant fish in there. The environment in that lake has not even been set up yet to support any kind of life, not less a trophy catfish. So, yeah, I just seen, you're right, Chad. That one was 108 pounds they put in that daggum pond.
That's ridiculous.
But even if you would put one flathead, it's done been proven. I know a guy that put one flathead in a small 1.5 acre pond that was full of big brim, full of crappie. 2 years later, you couldn't catch a bluegill. You couldn't catch a crappie. That flathead almost decimated that pond.
Yep.
One flathead.
Yep.
So you telling me there's no way that they can load them things down with big 50, 60, 70, 80. And this was about a 25-pound flathead.
Yep.
You can't tell me they can put them in there. They would go broke trying to feed those fish.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
And they don't care. Look, man, this is all the money scheme. All right. They give a rat's ass about these fish. And and if you think I'm wrong, go look in the dumpsters.
Yeah.
Every single one of those fish that are in that dumpster have gone through hell.
Yep.
And there's no reason for it.
You can't keep them.
No. And I've seen the pictures, of the catches, and those fish are about starved to death and got sores all over them.
Yep.
There's one up here not far from us. It used to be the swim lake, but now it's a pay lake. I will not say the name because I don't want to encourage nobody to go, but he's stealing fish out of Wiley, Norman, and the other lakes around here. Now, this is a good sized lake. This lake has been here a long time. This lake had a good source of bait fish for a few big fish, but it wouldn't last long because they don't have the structure in that lake for those small fish to hide. So they're going to get eat. But with that being said, he actually puts copper sulfite in that water, and it makes the mouth of those fish. When we first opened it up, and this is before I had a clue what it was, guy said, come on, let's go fishing up here and go catfishing. Got in there, and it was a pay lake. I didn't know the whole thing. I was still young. I caught a good-sized catfish. And he was still good and healthy. I've never caught a catfish that ever bled like that fish did. Yeah. That fish bled and bled and bled and bled. I haven't been back. I realized it was a blue, and I realized real quick, this is wrong. This shouldn't be being done. But James and Lyle, what can you do when it's legal?
There's nothing you can do if it's legal.
There's nothing you can do. But here's the thing, all right? And we do need an organization to help fight these guys. All right. We honestly and truly do. Have I seen that organization yet? No, I have not.
Absolutely not.
I have not seen it yet. And the best way that we could do this is go state by state, not a national, Missouri's laws are kind of different than most states because Missouri does classify catfish as a game fish, whether it's channel cat, blue cat, or flathead. It didn't really matter.
No.
And you're not supposed to be selling these things to pay lakes. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Doesn't mean that people don't take, big giant live wells and, put them inside private lakes and stuff like that. It does happen. But, guys, look, check in your state. All right. There are tons and tons of fishing groups on Facebook. There's all types of different commission meetings and stuff like that. If you're not going to those commission meetings, and those, meetings for your conservation department or something like that, and you're not expressing your full honest opinion about this, then there's no reason for you to rant about it on Facebook.
That's exactly right. You should be saying nothing.
Yep, because the
You ain't
organizations
writing
that have
letters.
popped up.
Yep.
Well, but the organizations that have popped up in the last couple of years,
They're a
I'm
joke.
sorry, it's just not cutting it. It's
They're
not
a joke.
going to cut it. I don't care who you have on your member, as far as
That's
members
right.
and stuff like that. It's just, I don't know. Like I said, that's a whole nother rabbit hole you guys really don't want me going down tonight. Again,
or
thanks,
any
Mark.
other night, because I'll be joining in on you, because there's no organization in the world that supports tournament fishing that should have tournament anglers pay in 3 different ways to be part of it. To be a member, the tournament directors, they have to pay a membership, which that's twice, because they're going to pass that on to the anglers. So that's twice they pay in there, and then they take a percentage out of your entry fee. So that's every angler is donating 3 times to that organization, whether they like it or not, or whether they believe it or not.
Right.
Hang on one second, guys. Chad Nolte had said something or asked up here about whether or not that those catfish spawned or not. The thing about it is, and this year's is a fine example of what happens either when you put a fish under stress or the weather is so screwy like it's been here in Missouri. All right. We had a full-blown crappie invasion, up on the rocks. You can walk down there and you can see 12, 13-inch crappie just, hovering around their nests and spots and stuff like that. And then we had that cold come through and it just drove them all back down. Now you go out and you catch these pregnant females that have not spawned yet, and their eggs are no good.
No.
So that spawn's over for them.
Their spawn is over. And it's the same thing with these big catfish and stuff like that. Is you take these catfish out of their environment and you put them into a smaller environment, they will not spawn. Nope. Those eggs will sit in there and eventually they will get rid of them, but they'll never spawn again because and there's a really good chance that fish is not going to live longer than a month anyway.
That is one of the reasons, James, if you remember a few years back, Missouri tried the noodling in the state of Missouri. They allowed it to be legal for 1 year. And the information they learned from that on how devastating it is to the spawn of catfish was why it was only allowed for 1 year. Those fish that was pulled off them nests, they never go back. They just disperse those eggs out. They never hatch. So you've lost that hatch plus every one that would have hatched out of them eggs from now on.
Yep.
And they said no more. It's too devastating to the population of catfish.
And that is the exact same thing with the crappie this year.
That's
so,
right.
You figure in 2 to 3 years, the crappie population, it's not going to be as thick as what it normally is. That could be a bad thing.
Now, want to be outdoors, but North Carolina people here keep fish that are so big it's ridiculous. I don't see that too much. Want to outdoors. Everybody I know that's in the Carolinas are really very CPR people. They want our waters to stay fertile and growing and stuff like that. James, back when I was a big time bass fishing tournament fisherman, I would not fish during the spawn. A lot of guys did. I would take that time off, and it always cost me points and money in tournaments because I lose points because I wouldn't even fish the tournaments. Or if I did, I would fish opposite than the bedding areas. I'd go out deep water fish, try to catch the ones that's done come off the spawn or the ones before they went on. Do you think that that's something, Oklahoma's big time. They do a lot of that grabbing a catfish. Do you think that they could still do it, but not do it during the spawn? Because mainly they doing after flatheads.
Doesn't matter.
Right.
Flatheads.
I know that, but
flatheads spawn too, and that's when they get them.
Exactly. Oh, exactly.
And
I'm just saying.
what people
What,
what people a lot of people don't understand is when the noodling season happens, it's during the flathead spawn.
yeah.
All right, they've already gotten inside their little holes and their cubbies and stuff like that, and they're fending it off, waiting, for the right weather condition, the right water temperature, all that stuff to release those eggs. So you're pulling those fish off those nests automatically.
Oh,
and
sorry.
some places, I think that it does affect it more.
I do too. I mean, it's my largest bass I ever caught come off a point. I'm sorry, I thought he was saying North Carolina. I pulled her off the nest. I didn't mean to. It wasn't that I was targeting her, but as soon as I pulled her up out of the water, she was 11 plus pounds. She was squirting eggs. We took a picture and I released her right then. Now did she go back to the nest? I don't know. I did. She was huge. And as soon as she come up out of the water and the gravity and the above water pressure got on her, she was releasing eggs. So, I held her in the water. We got a camera, took a picture, and I released her right then. She was out of the water 30 seconds. But I always wondered, did she go right back to the nest or not? I always wondered that.
It's hard telling.
And we'll never know.
And honestly, we'll never know. We really and truly don't. But, a lot of people have to take into consideration, the age of a crappie. How old a crappie, will live for. Crappies, normally by their 5th year, they're dead.
Right.
Very seldom do you ever see a crappie, that lives longer than 8 years.
Right.
That is the max that they will live. So a 3-4 pound crappie, you catch him or her, and she might be full of eggs. What's it going to hurt to put her back for one more year?
Right.
Especially if she is full of eggs.
That's what I was going to ask you. Most farmers, when I was growing up, they raised hens for laying and meat.
Oh, I'm not allowed to touch Katie's chickens.
And
so I don't know.
Now,
you tried that once.
But what I'm saying is, once a bird hit the 4th year, it become meat. It was no longer a laying hen because most of the time those eggs was no longer fertile. They was not viable for reproduction. Do you think that same thing happens in the fish world? Do you think that everybody says, all right, we taking them 50, 60, 70 pound cats out of the water and you're hurting the reproduction? Are we really? Are we really hurting it? Are those fish actually producing viable offspring?
It depends on who you talk to. All right. Some studies have said, fish, once they hit a certain age, it doesn't matter. They're not going to produce any more eggs, so why not keep them? They're not getting any bigger, blah, blah, blah. Depending on what state you live in, what study you're going to go by, that's what they're going to say. And then other states, they're like, no, put that 70 pound flathead back into the water. They're going to reproduce. They're going to, shoot some more DNA, into these offspring to make bigger fish and stuff like that.
Right.
Honestly, to be truthful, I honestly don't think that there has been a good enough study. And now this is a national study. This is not a state by state. I want a national study. I want these guys to get together and go, look, here is all of the information that we've collected. And I want the next state to come in and go, well, here is what we've collected, and so on down the line. Then I want all these guys to work together to figure this out. Is that 70 pound flathead, is she producing, 500,000 eggs every year at 70 pounds? Or is she, she cutting back? Or is she producing more? That's what we need to figure out.
And I think a lot of us got to do, I know a lot of us got to do with age, but we all know, we all know that a fish here in the South is going to grow faster than the fish up north because of water temperature changes.
I'll go for that. I'll go for that.
So with that being said, this same 30 pound fish down here might not be but 10 pound or 15 pound up there. But the time that fish gets 30 pound up y'all's way, it is actually older than what the 30 pound fish is down here. That's what I wonder, is that are they an age limit to where these fish are no viable for reproduction? The same way the deer,
No.
you know, we know once a deer gets so old, you might as well take her out because she's no longer going to reproduce.
It's not the same with catfish.
Hold. Let me show you something. Okay. You see that little baggie right there?
Yes, sir.
That is. Let me see if I can pull one of these out here. These are otoliths. All right. These are what are inside every freshwater fish. All right. Doesn't matter if it's bluegill, crappie, whatever the case may be. All right. This one here is out of a freshwater drum. All right. Just a flat little
Trash fish.
piece of like bone. Shush.
All right.
Grown-ups are talking. All right. The only way to get an accurate age is to kill that fish
And take that.
when you pull these out.
Try.
Yep.
So we really and truly don't know, how old that 70 pound fish is.
Nope.
We don't know how old that 10-pound fish is. Unless
Exactly right.
we pull these out, and just like with the tree, these have got rings on them. And they can tell you from these rings where that fish is basically where it was born, where it's eaten most of its life, what it's eaten. There's all types of information inside these things. And that is, people, they fight you on this stuff all the time, because they refuse, they'll go to somebody's YouTube and they'll watch a video, and then that person's an expert. I'm not an expert. All right.
Nope.
All I'm doing is I am repeating to you guys what I've been told by the conservation department.
Right. And that's why I wanted to do this show, because I knew we all have our opinions on things, and I know that us three are going to give information that we've learned from a viable source that can give you facts and not just hearsay and BS.
There is a study on the Missouri I don't know if it's still on the website or not. They do so many, and they leave them up there so long before they take them down. But they have proof that blue catfish raise, I call them litters, you call them whatever you want, past the age of 30 years old. Now, how they come, I forgot now, I haven't read it in several years, but they have kept track of these fish, and they have little ones, they lay eggs past the age of 30 years old. And they claim that there was doing, at the time I read it last, because I read it 3 or 4 times, they was doing studies on flatheads. But in my assumption, the flatheads don't get as old as a rule as blue cats. For some reason, blue cats live to be a lot older than other catfish, and they're able to lay eggs and reproduce longer than, say, channel cats or blues or any of the other ones. But over 30 years is what the claim was the last time I read that article. I was thinking 31 or 32 years. Have you seen that, James?
Yeah. I read it years ago and haven't gone back and updated or seen any updates on it or anything like that. And I was thinking you're right. I think it is about 30 years.
Yeah, it's
So
31 or 32.
But then again, you take a study out of North Carolina, you take a study out of Louisiana,
That's
or
right.
Georgia, or Tennessee, and they might have different information.
That's right.
Instead of relying on one state.
And
Exactly.
it's like James said, water temperature, the amount of sunlight during the day throughout the summer months, or there's all kinds of different things that will bring that stuff to light. But I got to give Missouri credit, and I've said this a number of times, and some of them say, "Oh, you're full of it" or whatever. I don't believe there's anybody in the United States that does better studies than the Missouri Department of Conservation.
Yeah.
Nearly every study they do is a 5-year study. And I get so mad at them because it takes so long to get an answer on anything. But at the bottom line is, when they feed that information to you, It is 100% correct, or they wouldn't publish it.
Yeah.
That's just the way they are.
You know, and somebody made a comment, Creo, you know, it was like 30 years, maybe average of 50,000 eggs per year. Creo, look at it this way. A silver carp, Asian carp, whatever you want to call them.
You would know about silver cats.
Hey, I said, leave me alone about silver cats, all right? They've already started. Chris from Hooks and Hammocks has already started. I'm just ignoring his, you know, his anyway. But they'll have 100,000 eggs. All right, up to 4 times a year.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take a 20 or 30-year-old blue, how many eggs you actually think that thing is producing? I mean, we're talking hundreds of thousands.
Right.
But think about it. Even if every one of those eggs produced a fish.
But they won't.
But I know. But even if every egg produced a fish, how many of those fish actually live to be 5 inches long, 10 inches long?
Yeah.
Not many.
Well,
the best I remember out of each group of eggs laid by a female, they figure 2% of them actually hatch that don't get ate or destroyed by some other means. Right. Out of that 2%, 1% of the 2% actually grow up to be full-size adult. They're either caught or they're got in a net. They die for natural cause. There's a lot of things that happen to them over the years. So 1% of the 2% is all that ever makes it to adult lifehood.
I'm going to say something right now before we get much further. Guys and gals on here, we're not saying if you caught that fish legally, that's your fish. If you choose to eat that fish, that is your fish.
That's right.
I will not knock you. I will not cuss you. I will not down you for keeping a fish that is legally yours.
That's right.
Do I frown upon it? I do. Yes, I do. I would prefer you to release it so my grandkids can catch it. But that is your fish. You caught that fish legally. It is your fish. Period.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And to be truthfully honest with you, I'm more of a selective harvest type. All right. I truly am. Because
I'm glad you went there, because that was the next thing, James. I'm glad you went there.
You know, we were talking here a while back, you know, about trot lines and jug lines and limb lines and stuff like that. And there are, you know, a million different reasons as to why people are against them. All right. Unattended trot lines get caught up in boat motors and, you know, and all this other stuff. But here's the thing. You're never going to get rid of trot lines. You're never going to get rid of jug lines. You're never going to get rid of any of those things. You can make your opinion known, all right, that you're totally against it. Hey, that's fine.
Yeah.
But the guy down the street trying to feed his family through a winter,
yes,
you know what he's going to do if you keep harping on him? He's going to go more often. He's going to start dragging out your trophy fish and hanging them up in a tree right in front of his house so that when you drive by, you're going to see that fish.
Yep.
That's what's going to happen.
Yep.
You're exactly
right. That's why I say that, you know, the selective harvest, and, you know, if you feel strongly that you want, you know, the rules and regulations changed, or you want to, you know, get people to stop, you know, taking these big fish, by God, stand up and start teaching these classes. Stand up and go to, you know, a conservation meeting or help your state. Go to your state capital, you know, and do it that way. But yelling and screaming at somebody that they're, you know, that they're taking this big fish,
all that does is make them mad.
All that, and exactly.
And most people that run trot lines, I know people that run trot lines down at Santee before they stop most of that. They don't want them big fish on there. Them big fish, they pull slack in their trout lines. They tear up trout lines. They don't want them big fish on there. Most of the time, they're putting bait to get small eater fish. They don't want those big monster fish. Once in a while, are they going to catch them? Sure they are. if we go out and fish with daggum night crawlers on every rod, sooner or later we're gonna catch a monster on there. I don't give a crap what you say or try to prevent it. It's gonna happen.
That's right.
But I'm like you, James. If they're doing it legal and they're still releasing, most of them don't want that. If they're out of getting eaters, they don't want those big fish. They're like me and you. They're thinking, nah, I don't want that meat. I want those small fish that are eater fish, and that's what they're after. So I'm not knocking a man that's feeding his fish, even the ones that's legally doing it commercially, because now South Carolina made the rules that they've got to check them trout lines every 12 hours. Buddy, if you're running a trout line and you got to check it there, I think it was 12 hours. It might be 24. Used to, they could go like 4 days in between checking them. But I think not no more. So a man has got to be very serious at what he's doing, running a trout line, because if he gets busted, that's a heavy, heavy fine.
Right.
And plus, they set the rules: 2 fish over 32 inches a day per person. It don't matter if you're trout lining, it don't matter if you're jugging or if you're rod and reeling. That's all you're allowed to have in South Carolina. North Carolina, it's 1 fish over 36 or 34. I'm sorry, 34 a day.
Yeah.
It don't matter what you're doing, feed multiple hooks or whatever. So, guys, if they're doing it legal, don't knock them. You know, these men are trying to feed their families. Trout lines has been around before rod and reels.
Yep.
And
Well, and not only that, but you know, there are people that I know that run trout lines. I know people that run bank lines. And you know what they do with those big fish? They turn them loose.
That's right.
I know commercial fishermen that will not keep, you know, anything over a certain size because they can't make enough money off of it. By the time they work it up, you know, they said it's just not worth it. So they throw the big ones back.
And the only ones that are keeping them, they set them to pay lakes.
And they should be discriminated against that. Here's the thing.
Exactly.
If you want to stop that in your area, if you don't think it's right, get involved with a conservation area. Ask them how much mercury and PCPs are in big fish over 10 pounds, over 5 pounds.
There you go.
If you want to do something, go to the health department and say, hey, why ain't there a sign up at every boat ramp saying how devastating this is to pregnant women and children under a certain age? That's where the issue is. If people knew how much mercury and PCP was in fish, 20 pounds, 10 pounds and up, they'd stop eating them. They are unhealthy. And that's one of the reasons why the MDC put regulations on Mark Twain, Truman, and all the tributaries. And they have opened it up. They have the spot limit there. And instead of having 5 fish, you can have 10 unders, which tributes to more fish for you without taking out the big fish.
Yeah. Now they are limits to certain things. PCPs and other heavy metals are different than mercury. Mercury, and I know this from being a gold miner. Out west, say California area and places like that, when you comes to salinity in the water. Here in the Carolinas, we have very little salinity in the water. California has a ton of it. Otherwise, it dang near makes that mercury worthless. The salinity helps the body get rid of heavy metals. Here in the Carolinas, where you don't have it, your body will retain that mercury and other heavy metals, which can cause serious health effects.
End up growing up looking like Lyle. Nobody wants that.
Dude.
Well, people don't realize, you know, the word Mad Hatter. You ever heard the word Mad Hatter? That comes from them tanning leather with mercury, and people wearing mercury tinted hats would cause super baldness. I guess Lyle been wearing a lot of them mercury tinted hats.
Now, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I'm nothing but nice to you guys.
Oh, I'm just kidding. But it all comes
We're
back
never
down to
right.
James. Is
Always.
you're right. If you want to change laws, get off your tail,
And do
write
something.
your legislation,
That's right.
do something about it. Don't let your voice be heard, period. But use reason, guys. There are people out there that feed their family with it. I got a buddy of mine. The only thing he eats every year is nothing but pure deer meat. He don't buy a hamburger. He don't buy nothing else. He eats what he catches and what he kills. Period.
Well, see,
Don't.
and that's a lot of what me and Katie do. I mean, we
Yeah.
raise kids on very limited income, so fish, deer meat, that kind of
Yes.
stuff. That you do what you have to do. And so when
Right.
I see somebody holding up a big fish, and it's going to die or it's
Yeah.
dead, that's on them. That's not, it's not my concern. I can, comment, hey, great fish, whatever the case may be. And I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not going to tell them, oh, well, you should have put that back in the water, blah, 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 and all this other crap. You know what? Because that's just going to piss them off.
That's
and
right.
again,
Yeah.
they're going to go back out the next week and they're going to catch 4 more. And they're
or
going to
5.
tag you in the post. Yeah. And they're going to tag you in that post next time and go,
Yep.
here you go. Here's your CPR pictures. So,
Right.
Exactly
Now,
right.
I've
Now,
got.
one of the other things before we get out of this particular part of the conversation is you guys was talking about contacting your conservation departments.
Yep.
Be, how do I want to say this? Don't be cussing, making fun of them. Them are the people that make the freaking laws, you dumbasses.
Yep.
I guess that's the best way to say it. When you cuss them and call them names and tell them how poorly they're doing their job when they are educated to do exactly that, all you're doing is getting less and less and less and less and less done. Treat them with respect, and they'll treat you with respect back.
My wife taught me something a long time ago. Learn to pick your battles.
That's right.
Learn to pick your battles,
You
and when
have
you
to
can find
pick
it when
your
you can.
battles. Sometimes
Creole
there are
wanted
battles you
to
can't
know.
win.
Creole wanted to know: do you think eating catfish stunts the growth of older anglers, particularly in the north? Asking for a friend.
He's talking about you, James.
Yeah.
no, he's talking about you. He said older, Lyle. He said older.
You're older. You are older too. You are. Yes.
You, then Rob, then Mark. Yeah, you guys are just really
And where do you
old.
fit in?
Oh, I'm way at the bottom.
No.
I am still in my prime, boys. I'm still in my prime.
Yeah. So you say.
I've got to eat a little crow tonight. I made a post about a week or two ago on bow fishermen. And this post was passed along to me and was supposedly come out of Lake Wiley. And it hurt me because I have been on the waters the next day after bow fishing tournaments and seen the floating fish. Well, the post that I posted, a guy contacted me 5 minutes after the post. And he was the guy that actually was in the post with these fish. Most of them were carp. A lot of them was catfish, big size cats, but legal in the state of South Carolina. He was in waters and on Sandy Cooper that the only way you could get to them is with an airboat. So 99% of the fishermen down there can't even get to these fish. He done them at night legally, and every fish was cooked, cleaned and cooked, carp and all. I eat crow. I apologize to him for making a post and trying to make an ass out of him. He done it legally. Do I still like bow fishing? No. If you're harvesting fish for food and you're doing it legally, what have I got to say? He promised, he said, James, come go with me. He said, we tear up equipment more than any fisherman out there. He said, because at night, you think those fish just lay there when we throw a light on them? He said, no. Throw a light on a catfish up in the shallows and see what happens. He gets out of dodge. Carp, they run. He said, out of 100 arrows we might release, we might get 30% of the fish.
Yeah.
Might. He said, now daytime, we can go out there during the daytime and shoot them like shooting fish in the barrel. They won't move. But nighttime when we hunt, those fish get out of dodge because they're not used to seeing those lights.
Right. Well,
he said, but he didn't want me to put him in the same category as what a lot of things we see go on. And I said, well, then, sir, do like what I do. I hold other fishermen's hands to the fire. If I see them doing wrong, I will call them out. And I expect you to do the same thing in your circle of friends that are doing the same thing that you do. And that's what we're doing here tonight, guys and gals. It ain't that we're daggum just here on bitching. We're holding each other responsible for the trophies and the sport that we all love. And if we do that, our great grandkids is still going to be able to do this in the future. But we got to hold each other responsible.
Right, but I don't think that people have a problem with bow fishermen. I think what the problem that they have with the bow fishing itself is you pull up to a ramp and there's 100 carp or gar or whatever else they've shot and killed laying right there, stinking up the area, attracting maggots and flies and critters and all this other crap. That's the problem. Because see, I mean, even Katie and I, we do bow fishing, and it's part of it. But we don't take any more than what we can actually use, whether it's freeze, whether it's can, whatever the case may be. So
that's what I was told growing up. You don't shoot nothing you don't plan on eating.
That's right.
Period.
If
you don't kill nothing you don't plan on eating.
If you need a target practice that bad, set a paper target out in the backyard.
Well, I tried to tell him, I said, you want to prove how good a shot you are, bring me that daggum 2-ounce brim. You want to show me how good you are, shoot that little old brim like that at 30 yards instead of shooting that big old carp at 30 yards. And he just laughed. And I knew where he was coming from. And the conversation ended with both of us getting along and both of us getting information. Because think about it, guys. I would have never thought about chasing catfish up in skinny water that skinny. Now, I love skinny water for catfish. But whoever thought that you could daggum shoot 30 and 40-pound catfish in 6 to 8 inches of water?
It can happen.
It can.
Yeah. So he learned something from me, and I learned something from him by not setting, like Lyle said, not coming at each other bullheaded, fighting, mad. We was able to sit down and had a good conversation. It come out peaceful. I learned from him. He learned from me. We got along, and I was able to realize where he come from. This man was feeding his family. Not everybody does. And that's why I asked him to do his part, and I will do my part.
Fair enough. See, and that goes back to, we don't know what these people are doing. Are they feeding their family? Or are they showing off to friends? We don't know. And when we blast them on Facebook or we do this or that, or become the Facebook game wardens, well, you know what?
Nobody wants to be.
Listen, that's a damn good way to get your ass handed to you.
That's right.
I mean, seriously, because, you'll mouth off to one person too many at some point, and trust me, that's going to come back to bite somebody in the ass, and it usually does relatively quick.
Yeah.
And want to outdoors? Yes, I do keep fish I catch. I don't keep big fish, and truthfully, if I want catfish to eat, I want them little suckers no longer than 10 inches. I want them little bitty son of guns, them salt and pepper kitty cats.
Ones myself.
I like frying them whole. I love crappie. Yes, I do. But I'm like James. And before we get off here, let's go into a little bit more what we was talking about, selective harvesting. People don't realize a lake, if you throw back too many fish, you can really stunt the waters. I've seen lakes that have so many freaking brim in there, but you couldn't catch nothing over that big.
Yep. See, and
best thing to do is go ahead.
there's a reason that these lakes and rivers and all this stuff have limits. Okay, they don't want you throwing every single fish that you catch back into the water. All right,
exactly.
They just don't. If you don't want to keep them, hey, that's fine. I mean, great. More for the next guy.
Right.
But don't complain when people are keeping their fish.
Right.
Like I said, me and Katie, we're on limited income. So that's what we use to feed our family throughout the year. And we'll feed, my kids, their kids, grandparents, parents, all this stuff. And so, we do keep a fair share of fish every single year.
Yep.
But most of the places that we go to, there are not a lot of fishermen that go to there anymore. You would be amazed at, this year alone, I have probably met maybe 50 people that have never fished in their entire life. And they've taken it up since last year. And they don't know what they're doing, and you give them some pointers and tips and stuff like that, and you try to be a good steward of the fishing community and stuff like that. But, you still have the people out there that are taking over their limit. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
You've still got the guys that are, like Lyle, that'll set these, bass guys off by filleting out, 8-9 pound bass in front of them just because he can.
If I ever caught one, I would.
Yeah.
I won't take trophy bass.
I
will use bass for bait because I can. Here in the state of North Carolina, it is legal as long as I catch it on hook and line. And it's over. We can keep 2 of any size, and then 3 has to be over 14 inches. So 2 of them I can have under, but the rest of them 14 inches. Yeah. But I done made up my mind. If it's over 2 pounds, I will not keep that fish. I will not take it for bait, even though it's tempted. I like big baits. I cannot lie.
Yeah, me too. James is the one that brought me to the stipulation where I actually had to change my thoughts about what fish to keep. And that's why we use the term selective harvest so much, because for about 15 years, I never kept a fish. And it wasn't because I didn't want to. I didn't want to clean them. I don't like clean fish, period.
Right.
But I got tired of not eating fresh fish, so I started going back to cleaning a few now and then. Right. Now, if I caught that 7 or 8 pound bass, I couldn't do him up, although it would be funny to see the bass hole squirm and cry and go off. But if it was a 2 pounder or 3 pounder, I might clean one of them if it was legal for us to use for bait, because I'm not eating one of them. I don't like to eat bass.
Yeah, bass.
But crappie,
it's all right.
On the other hand, crappie on the other hand.
On the other hand,
I did not know until you told me how short life expectancy was on a crappie. I see no reason to turn back a 15-inch crappie.
No,
because it's about the end of its life cycle.
Well, and not only that, you take into consideration on a crappie. All right, the first year that they spawn, half of that spawn is going to die.
Yep.
Yeah.
Whether it's through stuff eating it, while it's still in the eggs, whether it hatches, it's never going to make it. I don't care what anybody does to protect these fish. Half of the spawn of a crappie every year automatically dies, does not make it throughout the first year of its life.
Right.
By the
half the freaking eggs get eat before the hatchlings can even grow.
Yeah. Hey, James, you got a bunch of new people in chat. Chrissy Brown, Mark from Catfish and Crappie, Justin Fish and FedEx, Mark from Catfish and Crappie.
Guys, if we forgot to call out your names, we're sorry. I got so entrenched in the conversations that I forgot to holler at all these people. I appreciate you coming in and supporting us. I hope that y'all are enjoying the conversations, and I hope you're actually learning from us. And I'm glad I seen something said about Gar. That's something else, James, that tears me up, is to see people break Gar's mouths and just throw them down in the water. It bothers me. Fish have a place.
Yeah.
And when I heard guys, when I made that post about the bow fishermen, I got hammered with talking about, Well, that carp is just an invasive species. They don't care if we kill them all or not.
That's not true.
People, the time these waters are old enough that even an invasive species become a native species fish. Do you agree with that, James? After a certain amount of time, that fish becomes a native. The environment
Actually,
actually
no.
learns to.
You know, common
It
carp
will
are not
always
considered
be-
invasive anymore.
Exactly. But they're still a species that does not belong here in Missouri.
That's right.
All right.
They don't belong.
They were introduced here in Missouri, and we're still not sure what the conservation department's going to do about it. All right. We're really not, because they're still doing studies. They're still, last year you could use them for bait. This year, or last year you couldn't use them for bait. This year you can. They still go back and forth on it, depending on the study and all this stuff. It goes back again to, if that is not a native species to that water, I don't care how long it's been there. It could be 10 years. It could be 100 years. It is still going to, in my opinion, it's still going to be considered an invasive species, and it does not belong in that water.
That ain't what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that like that study in Florida on the flathead catfish that was not native to those waters, that eventually the waters became its home. The whole environment changed to now having a super predator in the water. The fish that people was worried that would get wiped out learned to adapt, become a stronger, viable fish. That's what I'm saying. I ain't talking about something like the daggum Asian carp. That's just a crazy type of fish that reproduces 100 times a month. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. But it's that's what I was getting at. That's just like they stocked the white bass in Lake Wiley. I'm not white bass, the white perch. We don't have it. We got flatheads and blues, but when I say a super predator, I'm talking about striper, big white bass. We had white bass at one time, but we don't have striper and the big hybrids to help keep that population under control. The lakes around us do, and the population is kept in check. Lake Wiley, there are millions of tons of them freaking fish in the water. That's one thing is why the population of catfish is really booming, especially the flatheads. Do you think that if you do decide like they introduced those white perch, they should have done their homework and made sure that we had a super predator in the water to help keep control of it?
Yeah, I honestly do. But here's the thing, all right? The conservation department is, and this goes for nationwide. This isn't just here in Missouri. This is for every state. We all get an idea stuck in our head as to what we want to see in these lakes, whether it's alligator gar, whether it's big striper, whether it's hybrids, all this stuff. So, they do these studies and they get local opinions on, from the fishermen and stuff like that. And of course, people are like, oh yeah, we'd love to have, white perch in here, easy bait, easy food source, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then they introduce it and boom, it's out of control. Now, did you say that there used to be striper in that lake?
No, never been striper. What it is, it borders North of South Carolina, and the two will not get along. There's still a 200-year-old feud going on, and they will not come together and stock that lake. Actually, the blues and flatheads were stocked by fishermen. And natural selection coming down from an upper lake, but they cannot get along. But I guess they come together because at first the crappie population took a hard hit. The white bass got decimated. You won't catch a white bass in Lake Wiley anymore. And we used to catch 2 and 3 and 4 pound white bass in that lake. Big white bass. They're gone. They're just gone.
They're gone.
But the crappie population has learned to adapt. Now the crappie population has really made a rebound on Lake Wiley. The catfish population has boomed because you've got so much bait there now. But James, I've sat out there when they're making their run up north. I've been right up next to what they call Paul Creek. anchored up out in the channel, and I've seen them things come underneath my boat going north and be 10 foot thick. Don't know how wide it is, but 10 foot thick on my depth finder and come through past me for over 4 hours.
Wow.
Without a break.
Okay, but now let me ask you this, though. How many of those are you pulling out of the lake to help? Because you are a super predator. When you get on that water.
I drop down 2 sabiki rigs and pull them out as hard as they'll go. Because you can put 10 hooks on a line and wire their tails out. And a lot of people do when they're really schooling up. When they're really schooling up, you will see people gain up, and because they're good table fare too.
Yeah,
they really are.
Fishermen can actually do what?
Uh-oh.
What?
I would like.
Oh, either that or he probably just passed gas and started to get it away from him.
Go on with what you're talking about.
But listen, the fisherman, the fishermen that fish any body of water could actually do more good if they concentrated on, limiting down the white perch population, or like the selective harvest with catfish. You throw certain catfish back, those catfish are going to get bigger, and then they're going to start eating those perch, and then the price of chicken will go lower because Dieter will stop buying all the damn chicken for bait. So we all have to do our part.
And James, the same thing the Carolinas decided many years ago. You know what they decided to cut loose and reintroduce into our woods? Freaking coyotes. And now they ain't nothing but trouble, son.
Yeah.
Trouble.
Hey,
you come to Missouri and hunt coyotes anytime you want. Trust me, you'll get plenty of them.
Yeah.
We need
guys and gals.
We need to mention some more people, James.
Yeah.
Mike Chavez, Mike Irwin, Paula Smith. We said Chrissy Brown. There was a couple others in here. Eric Massey. Dieter's Yellow Chicken Works. Eric, don't even encourage him.
Parker Pursuits, Creole, the Bullock Experience. I'll be on his show in a couple of weeks. Michael Irvin.
Murillo. We need to make sure we say hello to him. But
his name.
No, he can't.
Get to feeling better, Paula. We know that you got an issue there. You need to get to feeling better. But don't ever encourage Dieter and his Jell-O chicken.
No, he's out shark fishing now. He's headed off the coast, so he should be.
There'll probably be some chicken for you to buy to take home and barbecue then.
Oh, but guys and gals, I think I want to do something like this about once a month on our shows. Maybe Lyle and James and maybe some other people that specialize in educating the public about fish, our waters, our wildlife, and getting different things. So James and Lyle, if y'all find out anything new that we need to bring into a show like this, please take some notes and get with me. And I want to do more shows like this. I know we have a tendency to step on a few toes, but at the end of the day, guys and gals, if it's legal and it's your fish, you caught it however you choose to catch it. It is your fish. If you choose to eat it, enjoy it. The good Lord blessed us with fish. Just remember that selective harvest goes a long ways, and our waters will stay productive as long as we allow them to be productive. We, like James said, we are the super predators.
That is exactly right. I have one question for Mr. Dockery while he's in here. I already know the answer to it, but when you go out before, I might. But when people go out to fish before I get out of bed and fish all day and come home and have caught so many fish, they should be ashamed of themselves. But James, I'm so proud of what you've done the last few days, because I know you have a goal in mind of what you're trying to get this year. But how many fish did you catch today?
64.
64. Amazing.
Legal
Now,
crap.
hold on. Now, how many did I bring home?
That's why I'm
My
not
limit of 30.
mentioning that because I know it's not near that big a number.
My limit of 30. That was all I
There
brought
you
home.
Right. But, you know,
And
anybody that can go out and catch 64 fish, basically in a morning run because you was home pretty early in the afternoon, that's a heck of a day. And I know that your goal is not to keep 5,000 fish a year,
right.
but you
And
want
thanks for letting
to
that
catch
number.
that many.
Thanks for letting that number out. I hadn't told anybody that number, Lyle.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Jackass.
Anybody that can get reasonably close to the amount of fish in a year that you catch is a true fisherman. And that you are, my friend.
Well, okay, since Lyle's letting the cat out of the bag already, for those of you that didn't watch his live stream the other day, I'm over 7,000 miles of driving just to fish this year alone.
That's amazing.
All right, and the last 2 days, I've put another 140. I didn't. Katie put another 140 miles on the car. And again, we weren't going to go, but Mark had to go and push her buttons and, set her off this morning. So,
but now, James,
she needs to start charging you daggum Uber prices.
Yeah. James, you was going to stay home and play with your granddaughter.
That was yesterday.
Okay, and what did she want to do yesterday?
She wanted to go fishing yesterday. So
what did you do?
Went fishing.
There you go.
A granddaughter or a daughter tells you, hey, Papa, we need to go fishing.
You go fishing.
Well, you put your stuff down and you go fishing.
That's
Point
right.
blank and simple.
And if she said
when the
you
wife
could go
gets
without
mad,
coffee.
No, that's not ever going to happen. Ever.
Hey, that's like when the granddaughter's playing with a fake phone and she says, Pawpaw is for you. What do? You answer it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, but I will let you guys know that as of today, I am over 2,000 fish for the year.
I'm right.
And that is, I do fish a lot. And I have fished over 100 days so far this year.
Dang right.
And I can guarantee you not even a quarter of those fish were actually kept. They've all been turned back, so that, you other people can come up and fish with me at some point in time and, not catch any fish. And I can just say, I don't know what happened. It's, an off day.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
that's what we have to do with Lyle.
Now, I'll tell you, though, when the way these perch are getting ready to start running up here and the bite is on, you come out here for about a week, James, bring you a couple of rods with sabiki rigs on them, and it wouldn't take you long to hit your limit, son. I'm telling you.
I'm going to tell you now. Listen, and here's the God honest truth. And I've some of the people that I've talked to and know.
And there's no limit.
Wow.
But here's the thing: you sit there and you start saying, "Oh yeah, you get your limit, or you catch 150, 200 fish." Try it. I am dead serious, folks. From this point on, heck, it's the second. Keep track of it for 1 month. Keep track of how many fish you catch, how many fish you turn back, and how many miles you've driven. Don't show your wife. All right, listen. I this is coming from firsthand personal experience.
Yeah.
Do not let your wife realize how many miles you have put on a vehicle just to fish the fish. Because that set off World War III the other day in this house, and you all know that,
I
Katie,
have another.
As short as cute as Katie is, she gets to start stomping her feet in the whole 9 yards. So
there's a couple other things that I need to bring up before we go, James. It's something that Mark always seems to forget, but I want to say good evening to Katie and Dee, because he gets in trouble for not saying hello to them. So I thought I'd go ahead and do it now so I don't feel like I'm in the same corner he is.
Well, she's still a little upset at Mark. So, and hang on one second. Justin Fish and Fetish, anytime you want to come up here and put your money where your mouth is, you just pack you a sack lunch, buddy, because it will be an all-day job.
I'll bring the camera.
Come on.
Hey, Justin can tell you about catching the white bass. The white perch on Wiley. That little girl had her blast. Richard got them out there on them white perch and them daggum 2 and 3 hook rigs. And that poor youngin was wore slam out catching them son of guns. Matthew Anthony, I can tell you how many fish I've caught since 2011 because he keeps a record of everything.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I'm gonna tell you, and Matthew probably can vouch for this. It's a lot of work keeping track of exactly what fish you've caught, how many fish you caught, how and if I don't know if he counts the ones that he throws back or he keeps and all that stuff, but that's what I'm doing this year, and I guarantee you I will never do it again ever.
That's one of the reasons Matthew Anthony is so successful.
Yeah. That's a fisherman. He's an all-around great fisherman. I don't care if it's striper, crappie, catfish, bass. It don't matter. He has kept a journal of every time he's went fishing.
That's outstanding.
Yeah. A very thorough since 2011. And Freddie, no, them things are at the house, buddy. I had to go. I had to make some running, and I come back. The truck is still sitting out here in the building. I did post up pictures of it, but I will have them up here next week. Man got him a laser burner. And he sent me some things that he burned in some wood. He's trying and messing around. It was like my logo of my Patriot floats and my logo of my Patriot Catfishing. It burned it into the wood. It's pretty cool. It's pretty neat. I'm sure he's going to start doing leather too. Wow.
Yeah, so far this year, I think I'm up to 2 flathead, probably close to about 20 blues. And I have no idea on channel cats, probably close to 50. And
but you know what the big one weighs, don't you?
I know what the big channel cat weighs. Yes, sir, I do.
Yeah, I've never eaten a flathead.
I'm still smiling about that dumb bitch.
Yeah, I know you are. You know, I've never eaten a flathead. I have heard they are delicious.
They're the best eaten of all catfish, and I have
belly meat
in years. The belly meat's the best part of that fish.
Yep.
But now, since I started my love for flatheads, it's been over 20 years since I even kept one this big. And I would never catch a big. The only reason I would keep one at all now is he is deep hooked and bleeding really bad. Something's wrong with him. Other than that, they are so beautiful. I just can't keep them anymore.
And this is me and Katie about got divorced over this for a couple of years back because she said flathead are some of the ugliest fish in the world. Now, I took that personally. I really did. Now, I will keep. I'll admit, man, I love flathead. I will keep a 5-pound flathead to bring home and put him in a skillet.
No, they're great.
There's no better eating than that right there.
That's as good as it gets. Yeah. Brad said they're the worst. Don't tell everyone that. And Creole says the flathead are the ribeye of the river. There's probably not a more true words ever spoken.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know what his wife says about him. He's a smart man.
He is. Boys, I'm telling you, once in a while you'll get one where you hook it deep. Even with a circle hook, you'll get one deep once in a while. And if they're bleeding so bad that it won't stop in your live well or something while you're trying to revive it, that's a prime example of a fish to take home. Now, if you can get him healed up, go ahead and release him. But if there's any doubt that he's going to die, you might as well harvest that fish.
Yeah.
Because there's no sense of letting it die and going to waste. And I promise you will find out exactly what we're saying is true about how great of eating table fare that flatheads are. But if it's over 3 or 4 or 5 pounds, I would never take one. And it's hard for me to take them. They're just so beautiful and but
it's hard for you to catch fish anyway.
They're king of the cats now. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, I agree.
Don't worry, James. I still catch them.
Well, what? A northern pike? I saw you catch one of those.
Nasty. Never again. I won't pick one of them up.
Let's be honest. It's probably a good thing. Now, see, James, you had mentioned about, a story about fish in the live well. And we can't actually talk about that story because that got me in a lot of trouble. You see, I went out and caught a whole bunch of fish, and it was for Lyle, and I kept them alive and healthy in Katie's hot tub. All right. He comes up, he gets them, they're kicking, they're
Here we
screaming.
go.
These fish are partying, they're having a good time. I mean, they're back flipping in the water and stuff like that. They're good to go. He has these fish 10 minutes.
It
And they're
was
all
10
dead.
minutes. At least tell the
Belly
story
up.
true. I even had them on oxygen. They didn't survive.
Really?
Yeah. There's just so many of them.
Oh, there's just so many of them.
There wasn't that many. There was only like 60 altogether.
But
Oh,
we
man.
had to keep them in them little baskets because they had to be
We had to keep them
separated
separate.
person to person. And they
Right.
couldn't, they in them baskets
Right.
in a live well, that didn't work out. I went through a whole oxygen tank, a whole tank of oxygen. Now,
Hey,
granted, they're the
Well,
small ones.
I can tell you, they all ended up in the same cooler with ice.
They did,
And
and
they
they
still
all caught
caught
fish.
Crap bone fish.
They
That's
did.
right.
They did.
And they didn't go to waste, did
learned
they?
a lot.
They did not.
No, they did not.
There you go.
That's
That's
the
the main
learn
thing.
a lot from that one.
They
Yeah,
did.
and you know, you watch K&B Anglers, him and Pop go down there to that pond. That guy overstocked that pond, and now he realized that that's why he's allowing them to take out the numbers that they are taking out of that pond.
Yeah.
You can actually hurt waters by overstocking or allowing
Yeah.
a fish to get to the point of just they will start degrading the waters. They will. It's like putting 100 daggum bait fish in a 20-gallon cooler trying to keep them alive. You can't do it.
No, you're not gonna. It's not gonna happen. So yeah.
I want to apologize to Country Boy Catfishing. I know he's probably done started his show. We didn't mean to run over on you, buddy, but we had some good information going on. So when y'all leave here, go check out Country Boy Catfishing. He's got a show going on after this one, or if not going on right now. James, Lyle, thank you for coming in.
You're very
I had a blast. I think we give out a lot of great information. And there's a couple more things that I do want to do future shows in that's already on my mind that me and Wampus Cat talks. We get into some pretty deep conversations sometimes. So that's future shows. Guys and gals, thank you for coming in. Make sure you check each other out, support each other. God bless you. God bless America. And we'll see y'all again. No, James will be on tomorrow night, him and Chad. What y'all got going on tomorrow night?
I don't know.
You never
I don't
know.
know.
We really seriously about 5 minutes before the show starts. It's like, what do you want to talk about? I don't care. And when the show starts, so
And that's
how it
sometimes-
works out.
Hey, sometimes mine and Lyle shows start like that and turn out to be some of the best shows we do, ain't it,
They
Lyle?
do. They do. Sometimes they do.
Yeah. So
So-
God bless everybody. We'll see y'all next week. Good night.